The Drugs and Cosmetics Act was enacted in the year 1940. The rate at which the country's healthcare sector has grown, the time has come to update the existing laws. Hello and welcome to MindSync, your compliance guard. I am Swati from MindSync. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare published a draft of Drugs, Medical Devices and Cosmetics Bill 2022 in July 2022 with the intention of reviewing, replacing and modernizing the old Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. As the new regulations have not yet been introduced, the bill specifies that the laws outlined in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 and the Rules 1945, the Medical Devices Rules 2017, and the Cosmetics Rules 2020 shall continue to be in effect. The Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 will no longer be in force once the new rules is put into effect. MindSync has come up with this video with all the important rules that this new bill proposes and the challenges it aims to solve. The Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 is a pre-independence legislation which was brought with an intention to regulate and maintain the manufacture, sale, and quality standard of drugs and cosmetics in India. In order to review obsolete laws and updating the existing laws, and to keep pace with changing needs, adaptation of new technology, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare released a new Drugs, Medical Devices, and Cosmetics Draft Bill. The bill proposes new definitions for clinical trials, over-the-counter drugs, manufacturers, medical devices, new drugs, bioavailability studies, investigational new drugs, and imported spurious drugs, among others. The objective is to amend and consolidate the law relating to the import, manufacture, distribution, and sale of drugs, medical devices and cosmetics, to ensure their quality, safety, efficacy, performance, and clinical trial of new drugs, and clinical investigation of investigational medical devices, and for matters connected therewith, or incidental thereto. There is a need for comprehensive rules, due to the following key issues, with the existing laws. The Drugs and Cosmetics Act and rules do not account for the change in technology and development in healthcare sector. It fails to make the necessary changes to safeguard the health and well-being of people. The Act and rules create ambiguity on the authority and governance. Multiple amendments have taken place in the rules, which are yet to be consolidated under Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Since the execution, lot of controversies have taken place in healthcare sector, due to the loopholes in Drugs and Cosmetics Act and rules. The penalties outlined in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act failed to act as an effective deterrent. The new bill incorporates the following key changes. The bill includes new definitions for clinical trials, medical devices, new drugs, investigational new drugs, and many more. A statutory board made up of experts will be established to bring medical devices under the ambit of the new bill. The bill has introduced a section that gives the central government the authority to regulate pharmacies. The bill has proposed changes for the regulations regarding clinical trials. The bill suggests that Ayush medicines to be regulated by the central authorities. The bill also proposes the formation of committees to advise the government on issues related to health care. The new bill proposes the formation of statutory board comprising of experts to create separate and independent regulators for drugs and medical devices and to bring medical devices under the purview of the new bill. For this, the central government shall constitute a medical devices technical advisory board to advise the central government and the state government on technical matters pertaining to medical devices. their clinical investigation, quality, and health standards, etc. Constitution of Central and State Drugs Laboratories, Central and State Medical Devices Testing Centers, for testing and analysis of drugs, cosmetics, and medical devices, functioning as an appellate laboratory, and carrying out other functions assigned. Establishment of Drugs, Medical Devices, and Cosmetics Consultative Committee. To advise the central and state government, the Drugs Technical Advisory Board, and the Medical Devices Technical Advisory Board. Chapter 3 of the draft bill prohibits import of cosmetics, which is not of standard quality, or is misbranded, adulterated, or spurious. The central government regulates and prohibits the import of such drugs or cosmetics. Also, penal provisions has been made for those violating the prescribed regulation. The draft bill includes a substantive regulations for conducting clinical trials and clinical investigations in the case of new drugs and medical devices. It proposes that prior permission from the Central Licensing Authority has to be taken for conducting clinical trial for any drugs and clinical investigations for medical devices, bioavailability or bioequivalence study of any new drug in human participants. In addition, provisions for compensation and medical treatment in the event of injury or death of a person participating in a clinical trial or study of such drug are included. The proposed rules would include and regulate SOVA Rigpa, homeopathy, and traditional medicines as Ayush products, in addition to the current Drugs and Cosmetics Act, which only regulates Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha drugs, and cosmetics. Constitution of Ayurveda, Siddha, SOVA Rigpa, Unani, Homeopathy, Drug Technical Advisory Board, and the Ayurveda, Siddha, SOVA Rigpa, Unani, Homeopathy Drugs, Medical Devices, and Cosmetics Consultative Committee, to advise both the state and central government to ensure uniformity in the regulation of Ayush drugs, medical devices, and cosmetics across India. Establish a scientific research board to support the regulatory authority. Set up the Central and State Drug Laboratory for Ayurveda, Siddha, SOVA Rigpa, Unani, and Homeopathy. In the new bill, a regulatory framework for the online sale of drugs, cosmetics, and medical devices is implemented. The bill states that no person shall himself or by any other person on his behalf sell, distribute, or offer for sale the drugs, cosmetics, or medical devices by online method, as may be prescribed, for which a license or permission is required to be obtained from the licensing authority, even though the steps for getting a license are not clearly laid down. The new bill imposes stringent penalty if any provisions of the bill are violated. The bill includes provisions for penalties for conducting clinical trials and clinical investigations without permission, as well as for failing to pay out compensation in the event of injury or death resulting from a clinical trial. Penalty in case there is a failure to pay the financial penalty imposed by an adjudicating officer and for furnishing misleading information that may lead to the prescribed penalty. Compared to the previous rules, the new draft bill imposes higher penalties for all offences. MindSync take on the new Drugs, Medical Devices, and Cosmetics Bill, 2022 as that there is lack of regulatory guidelines for pharmacies. There is no mention of good manufacturing practices, which is important for quality assurance and quality control. No specific guidelines provided for software as a medical device in the new bill. There is no recalling mechanism checks. Inadequate and insufficient regulatory process for clinical trial. There are no significant rules governing the approval of clinical trial protocols. Autonomy and independence to Central Drugs Standard Control Organization is not provided. Hope this video by MindSync has helped you with all the latest updates with regard to the India's new drugs, medical devices and cosmetics draft bill 2022. The draft bill has not yet been implemented and is currently under review. Stay tuned with MindSync to get all the latest updates. Get in touch with us for all your business compliances. Thank you.